April 1945, Western Germany. A thin column of German soldiers moves slowly toward American positions near the Rhine River. There is no gunfire. No tanks rumble in support. No artillery barrage precedes them. Their rifles are gone. Their helmets hang loosely at their sides. Their hands are raised, but not empty. Each man carries a small rectangle of paper, bright red, roughly the size of a postcard. They grip it carefully, as if it were fragile or sacred. Some fold it into jacket pockets. Others hold it out in front of them like a passport. Among the soldiers, it has earned an unofficial nickname, the life ticket. Printed on that paper is a promise, a guarantee of survival. And by the end of the war, 3 out of every 4 German prisoners taken by Allied forces will be found carrying one. This is not the story of a bomb, a rifle, or a tank. This is the story of how paper, psychology, and an enemy's own cultural instincts became one of the most effective weapons of the Second World War. A war already won, but not yet finished. By late 1944, Allied leaders were no longer asking if Germany would lose the war. That question had been answered. The real question was far more grim. How many men would die before it ended? Every fortified village meant another firefight. Every river crossing meant another bloodbath. Every German soldier who chose resistance over surrender represented a potential Allied casualty. And despite everything, despite destroyed cities, broken supply lines, and collapsing command structures, German units kept fighting. Even when defeat was inevitable. That persistence haunted Allied planners. Conventional military logic offered only one solution: apply overwhelming force until the enemy collapses. Bomb them. Shell them. Grind them down until surrender becomes unavoidable. But British intelligence believed there was another way. Not through firepower. Through the mind. The psychological weak point no bomb could hit. Years of studying German society had revealed something subtle, but powerful. German culture placed enormous trust in official procedure. Stamped documents. Formal authority. Proper paperwork. Even in chaos. Even in retreat. Even in defeat. A German soldier might doubt rumors. He might distrust broadcasts. He might even suspect enemy promises. But an official-looking document, properly formatted and formally worded, that was different. British analysts realized something extraordinary. If surrender could be framed not as cowardice, but as an authorized process, many German soldiers would take it. They didn't need persuasion. They needed permission. The birth of Britain's Invisible Army. The organization tasked with exploiting this insight was the Political Warfare Executive, or PWE. It was formed in September 1941, after more than a year of bitter bureaucratic battles between intelligence agencies, military command, and government ministries. Its headquarters was hidden away at Woburn Abbey in Bedfordshire, far from German bombers and public scrutiny. On paper, PWE barely existed. Its cover name was the Political Intelligence Department. Its real mission was far more ambitious: to break enemy morale without firing a single shot. This was warfare conducted with ink, radio waves, and human weakness. The man who understood Germany too well. One figure loomed large within PWE's operations: Sefton Delmer. Born in Berlin in 1904 to Australian parents, Delmer spoke German before he spoke English. As a young journalist, he became the first British reporter to interview Adolf Hitler, all the way back in 1931. By the time war broke out, Delmer understood German psychology at an almost instinctive level. By 1940, he was running Britain's most audacious propaganda effort, Black Radio. Fake German-language radio stations, pretending to be disillusioned Wehrmacht insiders, broadcast messages so convincing that Allied estimates suggested nearly 40% of German soldiers listened to them. Delmer rejected moral lectures. He rejected ideology. His philosophy was ruthless and simple. Appeal not to ideals, but to survival. He called it appealing to the Schweinhund, the inner animal that wants to live. Designing the perfect surrender. The safe conduct pass that emerged from this mindset was not a casual leaflet. It was engineered. Every detail was tested, revised, interrogated, and refined. The size was fixed at 5 by 8.5 inches, large enough to feel important, small enough to hide inside a tunic. The paper stock was chosen to resemble German banknotes, because Germans associated high-quality paper with legitimacy and authority. The color was debated repeatedly before settling on bright red, impossible to miss on a battlefield, instantly recognizable under stress. At the top sat the official seals of Britain and the United States, dominating the design. Below them, the insignia of SHAEF, Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force. The typography mimicked financial certificates and government bonds. And at the bottom was the most important element of all. The printed signature of General Dwight D. Eisenhower. Interrogations revealed German soldiers did not recognize Eisenhower's handwriting, so his full name was printed clearly. Nothing was left to chance. Words that were tested like weapons. The text itself went through 6 documented revisions. German was moved above English after prisoners admitted confusion. A line clarified that the English text was merely a translation. Another revision added a crucial phrase, valid for one or several bearers. This came after intelligence discovered that German soldiers were sharing passes between squads. Even the concept of unit-sized surrender passes emerged from real battlefield behavior, printed at twice the size of individual ones. This was psychology, refined under fire. Printing on a scale never seen before. Production fell to Waterloo and Sons of London, one of Britain's most secure printing firms. By the spring of 1945, leaflet warfare consumed 80% of Britain's entire offset printing capacity. The numbers defy easy understanding. Across Europe, approximately 6 billion leaflets were dropped during the war. More than 3 billion fell over northwestern Europe alone. Safe conduct passes made up 10 to 15% of all leaflet drops. At peak intensity, over 10 million surrender passes were distributed every month. This was industrialized persuasion. Paper falling from the sky. Leaflet warfare was not new. Britain's first leaflet raids began on the very first night of the war, September 3, 1939. 10 Armstrong-Whitworth Whitley bombers scattered over 5 million leaflets across Hamburg, Bremen, and the Ruhr. The RAF called them nickel raids. Later came innovation. From Kent, the balloon unit launched hydrogen-filled paper balloons capable of drifting over German territory for days, dropping leaflets far beyond aircraft range. In December 1941 alone, balloons delivered over 4 million leaflets. The Germans could shoot down planes. They could not shoot down the wind. How the passes reached the front. By 1944, distribution became a science. 80% of leaflets were dropped by the US 8th Air Force, 10% by the RAF, 5% by fighter bombers during active combat. At the front lines, even artillery shells were modified to burst overhead, not with explosives, but with paper. 105mm and 155mm shells showered German trenches with surrender passes instead of shrapnel. The results no one could ignore. SHAEF's post-war analysis painted a stunning picture. By October 1944, 77% of captured German soldiers had read Allied leaflets. At Brest, 80% of prisoners carried them. At Le Havre, 3 out of every 4 prisoners had one. One report described 3 soldiers surrendering with a single pass, each man holding one corner of the document while raising his free hand. Others believed Eisenhower himself had personally approved their surrender. The illusion worked. When the enemy admitted defeat, the ultimate confirmation came from Joseph Goebbels himself. In April 1945, the Nazi propaganda minister wrote privately that Allied leaflets were no longer ignored, they were read carefully. British broadcasts, he admitted, now had a receptive audience. When the architect of Nazi propaganda concedes failure, the verdict is clear. German authorities reacted harshly. Soldiers faced punishment for not turning in leaflets. Civilians were ordered to report possession immediately. Concentration camp prisoners caught with them risked execution. Yet intelligence estimated 1 in 7 leaflets were never surrendered. Children, unaware of the rules, became accidental carriers. The Germans even produced mock surrender passes, ridiculing the idea, a sure sign of how seriously they feared it. Why it worked? The leaflets did not create doubt. They exploited existing doubt. A German soldier already questioning the war needed only an excuse, something official, to stop fighting without shame. The pass provided that excuse. A way out that felt authorized, documented, and safe. Every surrender meant 1 fewer defender at the next river, 1 fewer Allied casualty, 1 fewer family receiving a death notice. No artillery barrage could match that efficiency. The quietest victory. Britain is often remembered for radar, code breaking, and engineering marvels of steel and circuitry. But at Woburn Abbey, engineers of the human mind achieved something just as powerful. They turned psychology into a weapon. A weapon made of ink and paper. And it worked.